exercises in the gym for strength training that look like normal human movement patterns. We squat. We squat down, stand back up, just like you do during the day. Squat down, stand back up. We just do it with a bar on your back so that we control precisely the amount of force you have to generate to stand back up. And we've got ways we tweak the movement pattern to most effectively use the most amount of muscle, longest effective range of motion. And then we squat. We deadlift. We pick things up off the floor, just like you do out in the garage. You pick things up off the floor. We press things up over our head, just pushing something up over your head, perfectly natural human movement. And when we bench press, we lay down and push something away from us. Now, for older people, younger people, we use the power clean and power snatch. Older people are usually not in as good a position to use those explosive movements as younger people are, because as you age, your connective tissue turns to shit. Sorry to have to tell you this, but that's what happens to your Achilles tendons and your knees and your knee ligaments and tendons and your shoulder ligaments. All of this stuff is not as good a quality protein as it was when you were younger. So explosive stuff becomes more dangerous as you get older, and at some point it becomes not worth the risk. And when that happens, your exercises that you do in the gym are probably going to be confined to squat, press, bench, and deadlift. Nothing else is really necessary. Don't sit down on machines and wiggle your knees around. That's stupid. Doesn't accomplish anything. It doesn't make you stronger. And it exposes you to, anytime you isolate a joint, you're also isolating the connective tissues in that joint. And you subject them to a lot of stress that does not produce a strength adaptation. This is what's wrong with knee extensions, leg extensions as they're called. They isolate the quadriceps tendon and the patellar tendon in addition to isolating the quads. People forget about that. We're not just doing quads. We're doing that tendon work too. And if you're older, your tendons are not as capable of handling that type of stress as they were when you were younger. So the older you get, the less viable it is to try to isolate muscle groups. This is what is wrong with bodybuilding thought. Bodybuilding means muscle bellies, making them bigger because of the appearance that bigger muscle bellies have. I think I remember seeing an interview with Frank Zane, who was a good bodybuilder back 40 years ago. And Frank does not do strength training. Frank does bodybuilding. He does muscle bellies. And he uses machines to isolate the muscle bellies. And that's a whole different thing than we do. Now, it is possible to isolate muscle bellies using barbells. But it is not particularly useful to do so, because you are as strong as your ability to move through a normal human movement pattern permits force to be generated. Okay? You're as strong as what you can pick up off the ground. And when you pick things up off the ground, like a deadlift, you're using every muscle in the human body at the same time. When you squat down and stand back up with a bar on your back, you're using all of the muscles of the human body at the same time. When you press something up overhead, you are using all of the muscles in the human body. When you bench press, you're not using all of them, but you're using a lot of them. Now, if you were to try to do a dumbbell fly with a dumbbell to isolate your pec or isolate the muscles on the posterior side of your shoulder, this is not productive. It's of limited usefulness because it doesn't make you any stronger at all. Because anytime you try to isolate a muscle belly, then you are not engaging in a normal human movement pattern, because normal human movement patterns are always composed of multiple joints and all of the muscle mass that moves those joints through that range of motion.
The reason it doesn't work, though, is because it's not stressful enough, right? So it's like...
But if you make it stressful enough by going up heavy...
You can't.
Since it's isolation...
You can't, Rip.
You'll hurt yourself.
You can't make it heavy enough to make it...
You'll hurt yourself if you try.
You could try, but...
Before you get heavy enough, you'll hurt yourself.
If you're going to move it through a full, complete range of motion that's going to do anything, you cannot make it heavy enough. That's the problem. It's not heavy.
And this week on Starting Strength Radio, we are going to talk about all kinds of stuff. We're going to talk about politics. We got kind of sidetracked into that today because this is a very interesting time in American history, and we wanted to take advantage of it. But we also are going to talk about training as you get older. We're going to discuss several aspects of training for older guys versus training for younger guys. There are several significant differences, and we discuss all of them next time on Starting Strength Radio.